Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp, and today we're going to look at this new Kirby's Dream Buffet. A slightly unusual multiplayer and lower priced offering from Nintendo, a far cry from 1992's Kirby's Dream Land. Remember, if you buy any of these games you may as well save 10% using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg to buy your eShop credit, and we get a tiny little kickback. Now the obvious pun would be something like Kirby's Dream Buffet. Does it suck? But we're higher level here at SwitchUp. No, tell a lie, quite like that. Does it suck? Let's find out.
The first game type is race.
As I'm sure you're aware, there is no narrative at all, and that is not why you are coming to Kirby's Dream Buffet. That's surely all about the gameplay. There's the option of a few different game modes. You can check out your past achievements, and it will also detect save games from other Kirby titles on Switch. There's a rewards menu with up to 130 different rewards which are earned entirely through your own play and not through your own pay. You'll notice a giant cake covered in decorations, more of which can be unlocked as you play through the game. And there's the free rolling mode, which essentially acts as a tutorial, allowing you to try out one of the many different power-ups and practice your rolling skills. But we're not interested in any of that really. What we're after is that online multiplayer match. Online multiplayer lets you play against 3 other people. You can choose random, which, as the title suggests, puts you into a lobby and then selects 3 others at random, or you can enter a passcode and have your friends enter that wherever they are in the world. Matchmaking is reasonably quick, although if you have any internet problems you may find a few dropouts before you find a match. 2 other important factors are your skill level shown up in the corner, as well as your wins. Oh. It's early footage, honest. The race starts with the 4 of you lined up on the start line and the countdown begins. When the whistle goes, you need to race from one end to the other. There are also cake power-ups, which give you one of several abilities. Now in the race mode, these may be things like wheel, which turns you into a giant wheel, and you can run over the enemies, but it also gives you a nice boost. Another boost type power-up is the burning one, aptly named Burning. This sets you on fire and launches you at quite a great speed. If you manage to connect with any of your opponents, it sends them flying in a sizzling mess. Now across each race section there are small gated sections of what I can only assume is biscuit base that you have to break your way through. However, one of the power-ups is called Jelly. This allows you to slip underneath, and you'll realise quite quickly that holding on to these power-ups and using them more tactically is the aim of the game. Even if you're quite a way behind, you can almost guarantee you're going to catch up when the other players reach those gated sections, so you're better off saving those tornadoes and sending them flying. Your character has a weighted physics behind them, but there's a good amount of control. You can jump, but you can also float if you fall off of an edge, and the smaller you are, the easier it is to recover from a fall. However, the aim there is also to be collecting. The more of those you collect, the larger you get, and the more powerful. If you're bigger than your opponent, you're more than likely to send them flying if you crash into each other. And this is very important for when you reach the next section. After that race segment, there's usually a sprint finish to one of 3 cakes. And once someone's reached it, you're locked out, and if you're that 4th player, well, it's a sad time, that's for sure. After this section, you're shown the current stand-ins, and that will also indicate who's the largest. The 4 of you will then find yourself dropped into one of several mini-games. These are party stage events, pushing each other off the edge and jostling your way to try and get larger. They tend to have a set goal, such as collecting them from teacups, and once you're done, you'll move on to the next race stage. If by some miracle you can land yourself in the top 1 or 2 positions, then you've got a nice leg up for the final battle royale. If however you're languishing in 4th, it's possible to make a comeback, but it's definitely a lot more tricky. And that then leads us on to the battle royale segment. This, as the title suggests, has the 4 of you facing off against each other, and in not a dissimilar way to Smash Brothers, if you can send each other flying off the edge, then they'll lose a load and potentially your rank's going to go up. The power-ups that you can use here are slightly different. You have things like Brick, which if you press the button slams you into the ground, but if you hold it you get a 2-stage larger smash, which can be quite devastating. There's a Drill Smash and the Sea Urchin style Needles move. Combine this with all of the previously mentioned ones, Wheel, Jelly, Tornado, and of course Burning. It's by far the most frenetic and competitive stage of the match. It's also a little frustrating for a number of reasons. First and foremost is the camera. The camera tends to track your player as you'd expect, but there are times when it doesn't. If you fall off the edge and then you respawn, you can collect a certain item depending on when you press the button, but I found that it wouldn't always respawn me in the center of the camera, and that can get quite confusing. You end up looking at the wrong person, or the camera's positioned such that you may get dash attacked and never see it coming. In my opinion, it needs a little bit of tweaking. Now, for those wondering, there are some mechanics in place, such as you'd find in something like Mario Kart, to help the slower players catch up. I experimented a little by sitting on the start line to see what the game does to try and help slower players, and that's where the high jump move came in. Much like Bullet in Mario Kart, high jump allows you to jump a huge section of the map and land back up in the competitive area. Now, if you held on to this a little bit, with the aforementioned walls, it feels like you can actually exploit this to the point of almost always winning a round. Obviously, it depends on how fast or slow the other players are, but I won more race stages by hanging back and collecting that power up than I did from rushing ahead. I mean, I think I'm just saying I'm bad, aren't I? On that note though, it doesn't avoid the frustrations you'd find in other Nintendo competitive titles. That feeling that someone hits you just at the finish line. And an issue here is there's not much in the way of defense. I think a shield pickup or something similar might have been a nice addition. Now, the courses themselves are actually surprisingly nice. There are lots of different routes. It's forgiving enough in that you can float yourself back to terra firma with a few presses of the A button, and it really does reward players for going the more complex routes. As well as constantly unlocking new cosmetics, you will also unlock new minigames and courses. When you've finished your races, your minigames and your battle royale, the final rankings are given, and it's where the more skilled players are going to benefit, because certain players will be awarded based on how many kills they got, who collected the most, and a couple of other factors, meaning that the comeback can be real. My biggest gripe with Kirby's Dream Buffet is its lack of players. As far as I'm concerned, 4 players online just simply isn't enough for this style of game. It's almost like Nintendo know this, as there are a few NPCs that join you at the start of the race, but they essentially don't do anything. I'd like to see them move the number up to at least 8 to 10, and possibly even higher. It's still fun, and I guess there's something to be said for a more focused approach of having less players, but I don't know, it just lacks a certain something. I need to get my Takeshi's Castle vibes on. Kirby's Dream Buffet is a fun little game though, and if you just want to play locally on one Switch, you can take the Joy-Cons off, hand one to someone else, and play against the computer together. You can play some of the battle mini games, and it's another mode I think they should have made available online to be able to just play those battles. For the low asking price, Kirby's Dream Buffet is a fun game. I personally would much rather pay for something that doesn't have any free-to-play currency in it. Despite a few frustrations, gameplay scores 16 out of 20, and the controls are fine if a little floaty at times. They also score 16 out of 20. Visually, Kirby's Dream Buffet is a delightful looking game. It's eye-wateringly colourful, there's loads of colourful customisations, and the stages look like you could lean in and take a bite. Everything about the artistic direction fits with the game's style. I would, however, have loved to see this running at 60 frames per second. As it is, it's 30 FPS, which feels smooth enough. It has very good frame pacing, but sections of this are essentially physics-based racing, and a higher frame rate there can really make the difference. It has, as you would expect, an incredibly catchy soundtrack with a heady collaborative mixture between audio and sound to tickle the endorphins of even the hardiest gamer. In handheld, the experience is much the same. Visuals and performance score 17 out of 20. With the ability to unlock musical tracks from across the Kirby universe, I must give music and audio 18 out of 20. On to value then, and this dish will cost you £13.49, which in my opinion is a bargain. Yes, you can say that there are certain free-to-play titles which offer potentially a superior experience, but for a Nintendo title to cost just £13, and as I say, avoiding any in-app purchases, which I absolutely hate, this is well worth it. You can play with LAN setup with other friends, and the online works well enough. It could do with a bit more content, but certainly one of the more affordable and appealing party games that Nintendo has released. While it may be limited in terms of its longevity depending on what Nintendo do next, I think it's decent value. It scores 18 out of 20. despite a few misgivings, Nintendo have priced this game just right. It's one of those that will put a big smile on your face. It's a whole lot of fun, and it's incredibly addictive while not trying to sell you stuff. It gets a SwitchUp score of 85%. If you were one of the people that demolished me online, thank you so much for the review footage. Oh man, I need to get better. But thanks to all of you that enjoy the channel. Let me know if you've been playing this one, if you think about picking it up. And a thanks to Nintendo for the review copy. As always, for all things Switch, I want to thanks to our patrons. You guys are amazing. If you want to join them, all the links are in the description. If you want to pick up any games, you can save 10% using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. Man, that was a mouthful. For all things Switch, like the cake, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers guys, see ya!